It is the Boneyard Podcast. Matt Mosley here with Coach Lonnie Jordan. And Coach Jordan, I had people blaming the Boneyard Podcast. It's been a long time since you had consecutive losses. Although, man, what a great way to not only take down an improved Berkner team, but the way you did it, I think was really important. And part of the thing is, boy, if there's an avalanche, and you know, earlier in the season, it looked like you were going to be on the wrong end of one of those. What you did the other night, that had to be a great feeling. And I'm just sort of curious, were there signs during the week? I know coaches, you don't want to read too much into practices. Of course, I hear coaches after games say, "Oh, we practiced great on Thursday, Friday," but leading up to it, did you sense something like a sort of a breakthrough was about to happen?
Well, I don't know that I sensed a breakthrough as much as we did have a better week of practice, and the ability to refocus and put Jesuit behind us. You know, that one, again, we talked about it. That one really stung, and then that was on the heels of the Highland Park game, and so it was important for us to get back out there and practice well. And it was our coaching staff talked about it. It was important for us to make sure that we got the kids out there and amped it up a little bit. And so we were pleased with the kids and how they approached the week. They were, they clocked in and got back to work. And with Berkner, there's it's the rivalry and the stadium naming and city championships, and you got all these things riding on that game. And so, typically in a rivalry, they say anything can happen. Well, I think for us, it was really easy for us to get up for that game. And so, proud of the kids and the way they played and went out and made big plays and, set us up for hopefully what's a pretty good little run to finish this thing out.
I think it has a chance to be that, and we'll get into some Irving Nimitz, and we've got some historical perspective to share, not quite the rivals at Berkner, but I got to say, I've been to a lot of Lake Highlands games. I don't know if I've ever sat over there. Maybe even at some of those Berkner games, I've just been on that side, but that's an interesting place, and that has to be it's strange, isn't it, to be on that other side? And is there anything like different about the approach? You're in a different locker room. The whole thing, and again, you're not the only school that has to share a stadium and all, but during the build-up, how do you kind of keep things normal? Because in a lot of ways it is like a home game, but it's technically not. Is there anything from a coaching standpoint you got to kind of remember and prioritize before this one?
As far as being over there, it's really just it's so compact, and the stands are small, and I think we feel a little bit closer to it. That the visitor side, it fills up, and they're hanging right over our kids over there on the visitor sideline, and so that's a different. That's a different environment, kind of a different atmosphere. But as far as the locker rooms go, we stay in our same locker room. We still warm up on the same side of the field, which is atypical. If I go to another stadium, I'm always going to warm up away from the scoreboard, closest to, here at Wildcat Ram, we've got a red locker room that's Lake Highlands always, and we've got a green locker room that's Berkner's always. And so even when they're the home team, they warm up on their side, we warm up on our side. So there's not, as far as the routine, getting ready for the game, nothing was different. It's just the side we were on, and it's a different view, and it is odd when you play so many games there. It is odd, but man, it was fun. Right there, our fans were standing right there behind us, and it's almost like we were a little closer to them. So we enjoyed it.
You could hear us.
Yes, we could. Yes, we could.
Certain players' dads who shall remain nameless. It's interesting because I can kind of see around there throughout the deal, and there'll be, some more aggressive with the officials than others. What did you think about the way the game started with Berkner's, attempt to try to set the tone right out of the chute?
So you could hear a pin drop on our sideline because, we covered it. We covered it during the week. I talked about it in the locker room with the coaches. I talked about it in our pregame address to the kids. Look, guys, here's what's going to happen. They're going to pooch that thing over there to about the 35-yard line, and we've got to be ready for it. Either that, or they do have a kind of a bum rush onside kick, and we felt like they were going to do that, try to knock us off. They were going to try to steal a possession early. And so we had talked about it, and I had all the confidence in the world they were going to kick it over there, and we were going to catch it and get a short field and go score real fast. And didn't happen that way, Matt. I kicked it right over there, right off of our kid, and recovered it, and our sideline again. You could hear a pin drop over there, but it was the defense goes out, stones them, and we get the ball back, and so we although we lost the possession, I was really you're talking about those moments when you kind of know something is going in your favor, or you're about to turn the tide or whatever that is. Well, the way our kids responded to that let me know, okay, all right, here we go. We're ready. We can do this.
Yeah, and the response was 4 straight touchdown drives.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's any folks that decided to come just a little late. Sometimes people do that.
Yeah.
They were going to miss some things. And
you warned them about me Casino before the game. You got to get there so you can see this stuff.
Yeah. You don't want to show up late. And I mean, by the end of the first quarter, 14-0. It was 28-0 in a hurry. Big play early. Leland, Germany. It's fun. There's a great mix on this team. There's a lot of youth. Certainly some senior leadership as well mixed in. But Leland is someone that we've talked about before. But Trip Holly, who I know puts a lot of pressure on himself at times. I just thought he was extremely sharp in this game, especially that first half. Drive after drive. Y'all are making big plays in the passing game. But for him to, one of the things you've kind of talked about throughout the season is knowing you don't want to have him get away from those off-schedule plays, because that's something you want him to have the ability. You've got to kind of know when to do it. And boy, for him to free himself up on that throw and then to step up, climb the pocket, and throw it to Leland had come wide open. I mean, that was a great play on all accounts.
Yeah, no, it was. And Tripp is getting better and better with some of the kind of the off-schedule things where he's got to ad-lib a little bit. And he's had other times this season where he's broken the pocket and made these exciting touchdown throws, and we've also had some turnovers doing that stuff. So I think, again, as Tripp gets better, he's got all the tools in the world, and as he gets better and sees the game a little differently, he's able to stay alive and then find that receiver. And if it's, there's a difference between what we talk about it being gray, right, where we don't want to force something in. And Leland was so open, there was no forcing it. It was just a matter of, hey, don't overthrow him,
mm-hmm.
right? But it was an impressive play by both Tripp and Leland. And I talked to, it was a series of plays, and we knew that we were going to be able to get Leland open on that. So we ran one play and then tempoed right into a different formation and kind of hit him in there a little bit. And we felt like that we were going to have the opportunity to slip him up the seam. We thought we would block it a little bit better. He anyway did have to escape the pocket, but he hit him. Well, I was talking to the officials before the game, and I said, okay, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this early, and I want you guys to look for it. And we were just talking about, I'm going to have the right number of receivers on the line, and this guy's going to be off. So, you never want to get a flag on something because the officials didn't know it was coming. And so they're all wired up, So I talked to the line judge right before the play, and I said, okay, it's coming right now. I want you to make sure that you see the Z receivers off the line and, the tackle's eligible, all this stuff. And so he looks at it. Anyway, so the play happens. We scored, I think it was a 57-yard touchdown, I believe. So the umpire's running back down the sideline after we'd kicked the PAT, and he just looked at me and he said, Coach, that was just like you drew it up, wasn't it? So I kind of shake my head, but we draw these things up, and the thing is, you can't make plays like that if you don't have great players. And so, Tripp and Leland and so many guys that we'll talk about tonight did great things and made big plays, and we came out with a big win.
Yeah, it was good. And, Shamar Donaldson, who you had to kind of wait for to get right physically, you knew he had big play potential. When everything's on time and you can get the ball to him on the run, he's a problem for most defenses. And to your point from earlier, and I don't want to just build up a team to build them up, but truly Berkner has some great athletes, and you can tell they're going to do some good things in the future. And so, in fact, late in the game, I kept hearing somebody said, and I thought they were exaggerating, they said, number 22 is like a world-class sprinter. And I'm like, okay, I don't think Berkner has a world-class sprinter down there. And I saw the kid take off on a touchdown. And apparently he is like a freshman or somebody who has world-class speed. And some people think he might be in the Olympics someday. So, I mean, that's the kind of athleticism they have over there.
Yeah, and he's not, that kid's not the only one. He is, he's young and he's going to be a great player. And he is, he's an elite track athlete, and then is going to, he's going to turn a lot of heads. And I think his first varsity game, he returned a punt, and I mean, he's good, and they've got 2 or 3 guys like that. So from a sheer athletic ability standpoint, Berkner's they've got quite a few kids. Fortunately, right now we're where our program is, we've got good athletes, and we feel like from a culture standpoint and just a vision from our kids, we play the game. We play the game pretty well, and so the whole team aspect is going to allow us to, in some aspects, take care of teams like that.
Yeah, well, you certainly did it to the tune of 42-7 in the Lake Highlands victory. While you can't get on one of those runs without getting stops, and the pressure on that quarterback, started to kind of take its toll. Andre Johnson's been number 4, has been really good for you all year. One of the guys we talked about on one of the earlier podcasts, JK, the kids call him, Jalen Caden, what he can do from the defensive line. And by the way, those guys arrive, they leave a mark on quarterbacks. In this day and age, you kind of have to know where to hit a quarterback. They're protected in a lot of ways at all levels. And I thought those hits early, those will kind of, remind a guy as you're going through the game, and I thought those were big. Some of the pressure you were able to generate.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's that's part of what we talked about as a group. When I'm in front of that team before we run through the tunnel, we're talking about just that, and it's we want to make our presence known. We want to come out and remind everybody that who Lake Highlands is, and we want to put the LH on them. And so Andre and Jalen coming off the edge, and we've talked about Jalen before. He's long, and he is so athletic. His get off is amazing, and he fights. He just plays hard. He's going to pursue the ball, and he's not. The play's never over for him. And then Andre had 10 tackles, 5 solos. He had 2 tackles for loss. And he's a really good high school football player. He'll go off and I think, have a pretty good college career as well. But he's strong. He uses his hands well. He separates, and then, he's able to make plays, whether it's in the backfield or running down the line. So, those guys were amazing. Jalen had his sack. He had a TFL, had a quarterback pressure. John Williams was our nose guard on Friday night. He was actually the defensive player of the game. He had 8 tackles, 5 solos, a sack, and a TFL, and he really ate up blocks in the middle, which allowed our defensive ends to do some things as well as our linebackers. So really proud of the front.
All right, safety play continues to be good. We talked early this season. You got a longtime baseball player back there, but I what I'm seeing from him, Wesley, is more like even in run support, he's becoming more, reading those things quickly. Carson Klein's always been a really good player for you, but it just seems like even when you get a player down, Hutton was out for this game and has been banged up a little bit. The guys, linebackers, safeties, you're getting a lot of people stepping up.
So I think as a group, as well as we felt like our defensive line played, the back end. So our secondary, I think, was really the highlight of the game. They, especially with the speed that they were playing against, and the pressures that we got on that quarterback helped. But those guys were right where they needed to be. We ended up with 4 interceptions, and in forcing turnovers like that. If we can find ways to continue to do that, we're going to win games. But I thought the back end played amazing. Carson Klein had an interception. Wesley Scott almost had an interception, probably should have, ended up being a pass breakup, but he did a great job there. Chung Leon had an interception. Lucas Shaw returned one for a touchdown, so a pick six, which that always, man, that swings the momentum so fast, and it's kind of a dagger to the other team. And then late in the game, we had Mohammed Dodowama had an interception. So, man, really proud of him. But it was I had a great night by the back end.
Yeah, it was a good night all the way around. Now, in the offense, we're just talking about Jalen comes out left tackle and plays, and every once in a while you got to spell him a little bit because that's pass rushing everything. I want to let you have a chance to brag on some of those old linemen because you did. There were some plays there, and I know, like you said, they sold out to stop the run game. I thought that was good, though, because it's like if they're going to take a weapon away, Deontay Dean's played wide receiver for you. Mm-hmm. So, Corey, at some point, y'all throw to him across the middle for a big play, and I just feel like if the running game's not there, you got to find other ways. Now, yeah. It seems like Tripp's doing enough that you don't have to throw him the ball too. But
well, we had some wrinkles in this game, and we were gonna make sure that we had everything we needed in order to win it. And those things are fun to practice. Some of those little trick plays or whatever. Mm-hmm. Kids enjoy that, and it's and a lot of times you can. Just with an influence, you can create an opportunity to move the chains and get a first down. So we did throw one to Tripp. But Berkner's front, their defensive front is really, they're pretty good. They're big, they're strong, they're athletic, and they committed, like we talked about earlier, they committed to taking away the run. A lot of pressure. A lot of outside linebackers coming off the edge, a lot of blitzes by the inside linebackers, and so when they do that and they eat up those gaps in the middle of the field, they are susceptible to the big play, and that's where Tripp and those receivers come in. And you take the first one, we hit to Shamar, which was, I think, it was over 50 yards for a touchdown. But when you commit everybody up there and play man coverage on the back end, it's a matter of us being able to protect long enough for Tripp to be able to get rid of that ball, and it doesn't have to be. I think Shamar probably caught it. It was probably a 10 to 15 yard ball, and then took it the rest of the way. So I was proud of our kids recognizing the coverage changes, recognizing the blitz, and being able to to adapt off of that. As far as the offensive line goes, And Deontay Dean is an incredible running back, and so we've talked to him this week about sometimes you're going to have games like that where people commit to taking one part away, but what a blessing it is for us to have another asset or another side to our game where we can compensate for that. So we threw the football around a little bit more, and again, proud of Tripp, the O-lineman. A lot of screens in this week when you run a screen, those offensive linemen, they're going to kick back and they're going to let that defensive front go, and they're going to have to go block linebackers in space. And sometimes they're successful doing it, sometimes not. But if we can get the defensive line across the line of scrimmage chasing Tripp, then it gives us, there's a void in the middle part of that field. And so we were able to have some success on screen plays, and again, I thought our linemen did a good job executing those.
Yeah, and penalties, which at times have caused you issues this season, didn't have significant amount of penalties, and I know that's probably been a point of emphasis with you because you want the kids to play through the whistle, as we say, and all that kind of thing. But it just seemed like that wasn't undermining you. Those big plays, and you had a couple that had to come back, but for the most part, the big plays were allowed to stay because
right.
I'm sure like you're like a lot of fans. When you see one of those big plays hit, you look back there to make sure nothing's called. Yeah. But it seemed like that you did well in that area.
No, we did, and I think and we've been. It's one of those things that each week is a primary goal for us. Not to not to commit penalties and get better just at the fundamentals of the game, so those things aren't happening. We had 5 penalties for 48 yards, which is more than I'd like, but a lot less than we had the week before. So, and when you're not taking the touchdowns off the board or crucial first downs off the board, it allows you to stay in a little bit of a rhythm. And I think when you go back and you look at the Jesuit game, it was really hard for us to get into any kind of rhythm, because anytime we would do something good or positive, it would come back. And anytime your offense starts backing up, or defensively you get a penalty that creates a first down for them, that'll take the wind out of your sails a little bit. And so that didn't happen to us Friday night, and it was a big positive.
All right, let's do the unsung award winner. People really look forward to it, and William Mangelsdorf. Apparently he had a big week after winning that award, recognized in the halls by many.
Yes.
I know that some of the players, the parents get excited about this, so it's become a very popular feature. In fact, we're going to create a way that you can sponsor the Unsung Hero of the Week award. And again, we thank Mike Black, our presenting sponsor, Eagle Cleanup. In fact, I saw Mike at a game this last week, and that was fun to get to catch up with him. And he's got some great young athletes in his family. But Mike Black, who's stepped up and been a huge part of this, is willing to let someone else come in and sponsor a week if you're interested in that. And we do have people reaching out to us. So we'll be getting word out on how you can sponsor one of these weeks. But who is, drum roll please, our Unsung Award winner?
So our unsung hero this week is Muhammad Dodo Dawa. Muhammad Dodo Dawa.
That's a familiar name.
It is. I said it earlier, but I messed it up. So from this point forward, Matt, we're going to call him Dodo because it's easier for me.
Dodo.
So everybody knows him as Dodo.
Yeah.
Muhammad Dodo Dawa. And man, great story on this young man. He's a senior this year. He moved to the States from Nigeria when he was in the 7th grade, which is a little old when you think about these kids coming in and acclimating and things like that. Well, he came to Nigeria from Nigeria in the 7th grade. Lived in Houston. He didn't come to Lake Highlands until his sophomore year, and I was talking to him today, and I asked him. I said, why did your family leave Nigeria? He said, Coach, we just wanted a better life. And so what a great, you think about them living in Nigeria, him coming to the States, and now he's a high school football player. He got an interception in the game the other night. Pretty amazing what our sport and public school and athletics can do for kids. So anyway, Dodo came to the States in the 7th grade. He came to Lake Highlands. He came to Lake Highlands as a freshman, and he was in the band, did not play football. So he was in the band. He was I think he was on the drum line. He was a percussionist. And he came to me one day, and Dodo's a little guy. There's not a whole lot to him. He came to me and he said, Coach, I want to play football. And I said, I said, give me a little bit of your story. What do you know about football? Well, he didn't know anything about football. He hadn't played football before. And I said, I don't know if this is, I don't know if you realize what you're getting into. Just the amount of time we spend and the work and the summers and the weight room and all the things that goes in to being a football player. And he said, no, Coach, I want to do it. And so I said, okay, well, he was in band, and he said, I'm gonna get out of band. Well, I didn't want him to do that. So for a little bit in there, he stayed, and he was a drumline guy, and then he would come out and play football. But he didn't start for us, or he didn't come to us until he was a sophomore, which again is really late. Played on our JV black team, our JV B team, as a junior, and then this year as a senior, he's up on the varsity. I'll tell you, he has an incredible work ethic. The kids absolutely love him. His personality is as big as this room, and so everybody he's the kid everybody roots for. And so, interestingly enough, on Friday night, he gets out there at the end of the game. And one of the coaches was kind of looking at it. He had 3 plays at the end of the game, and sealed it for us there at the end.
Yeah.
But on the 3 plays, I think Berkner may have been attacking him. I don't know, but on the first play, they throw a ball out there and he gets a tackle on the receiver. It may have been number 22. And then on the second play, they throw another ball over there and he gets a tackle for loss. So he tackles the receiver behind the line of scrimmage. And then on the third play, they throw a fade at him and he picks the thing off. So he was in the game for 1 minute, and he got an interception, a tackle for loss, and a tackle. And the sideline erupted when it happened.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, they ran over me to get to Muhammad. But just man, an amazing kid. Goes the extra mile. I've had an opportunity to meet his mom. She's a sweet lady. She really cares about him, and we talked through the whole band football thing. There was last year we had a cold snap. It was winter. I think it was 20-something degrees outside, and Dodo calls me and he says, "Coach, we have a flat tire." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Do you know how to change a flat tire?" He says, "No, sir, I don't." I said, "Okay." I said, "Where are you?" They were over there on Abrams. There's a Kentucky Fried Chicken over there, Abrams and 635, somewhere right over there. And so I drive out there, and sure enough, they had a flat tire, and nobody. It was him and his little brother and his mom, and nobody knew it. So we got out there and we changed the tire. And I asked him today. I said, "Now, Dodo, do you know how to change a tire now?" And he kind of hem-hawed around. So we may have to have some more practice on it. But anyway, great kid. Really looking forward to him getting opportunities to play more as the year goes on. But kids love him, coaches love him, and we are happy he's a Lake Highlands Wildcat.
Dodo.
Man,
I love that. He's ineligible now for the Unsung Hero Award because he played too well in that minute. Can't be unsung if you're that good. Yeah. We also need to make the young man and you familiar with AAA. I think. That's always my first.
Well, the bad, and I'll do anything for our people, but golly, Matt, it was cold. And you get down the ground's frozen, and you're down there on the asphalt. And Dodo's just looking at me, he's handing me lug nuts and different things.
You're like a surgeon down there.
Yeah.
Oh man, well that's good, Dodo. Congratulations, and boy, people want to be on the Boneyard podcast. 2 of your scout teamers, by the way, let me in this evening as we were getting ready to tape, and so they were really wanting to be mentioned on the Boneyard podcast. So Chris and Duncan. Chris is a big dude who helps you get ready and gives you a good look. I think your offensive line, he on the defensive line, he's trying to crash through there. And then Duncan was he wanted to be on there, so they wanted to mention them as well. They said we could be unsung. I'm like, hey, you got to get an interception first, okay? You got to be like Dodo, but we'll get them mentioned. Now, let's talk Nimitz for a second. Okay. Glenn Gant, who always does our history, I got a kick out of this because he got into where Nimitz is named after. I am familiar with Chester W. Nimitz, and it was once a South Irving dairy farm in 1968, but the first class were middle schoolers. Nimitz High School would graduate their first full class. Coach, I hope you're taking notes here. 1972, Nimitz and Lake Highlands, and we try to give you a little history on who the opponent is. Very limited history prior to them being in the district starting in 2020. 3 prior games over the years, all in the mid-90s. And interestingly, the Nimitz, and boy, they were good in the 90s. I kind of remember this. The 95 team, Lake Highlands played them twice that season. Season opener was a 35-14 win over the Vikings that avenged the previous season's upset of those state-ranked Wildcats. And that was over at the Cotton Bowl. And then they would meet up again in a playoff game at Texas Stadium. So some really interesting stuff there. Also, Glenn, I thought you would like me to read this, Coach. He did make the point that in the long history against Berkner, you are the only coach who has never lost to Berkner. Okay, so I think I think Glenn's figured this out. He can get more airtime if he comes up with stats like that. So
I am so glad that he mentioned that to you this week instead of last week. But that's interesting. And Nimitz in the '90s, Mike Farda was the head coach there, and he was, I mean, is good. As a matter, his son now is coaching, I think. Don't get me lying. It's Carrollton Farmers Branch, I believe. His son is now coaching, but Mike Farda was an amazing coach. He was one of the best in the business, and in the '90s they had a lot of success. But so did the Lake Highlands Wildcats. So it sounded like those were some pretty good ball games back then.
Nobody ever brings up the '90s Wildcats to you, do they? So I'm sure that never comes up. But now, who was it? Phil Bennett, who's the longtime defensive coordinator, used to be the coach at SMU, was A&M. His brother was the coach at one of the Irving schools.
Irving High.
Irving High. Okay, so the Irving schools. Now, Nimitz, what you don't want to do, I mean, and how do you do this? They're 0-4. It's been a struggle for them. Really all the Irving schools, some of them are doing a little bit better than others. You've got to take every opponent seriously. How do you kind of convey to your kids, hey, they're going to show up and we got to take care of business, where you don't start thinking, okay, now we're on a roll. How do you kind of keep yourself at your standard, even when maybe the opponent's not, putting up a great record so far?
Well, I think I think you just nailed it. That's it. We have a job to do, and so on Friday night, the team's going to come in and they want to win, and our job is to make sure that doesn't happen. So our preparation, and I, whether you're a husband or a father, whether you're whatever business you're in, I mean, isn't that really it? Some sales are easier to close than others, but you still got to close them. And I have no indication to say this is going to be an easy game, but they're going to come over here, and I have to assume that coach is going to have them ready to play. And they've got some good players that returned from a by-district finalist team last year who played. They played Arlington Martin right down to the wire. So they've got some good athletes. They had a coaching change really late in the summer, and I think their head coach, young guy, I think he's doing a good job, and I think he's going to continue to get better. He got kind of thrown into it late, and so each week, they're going to get a little bit better, but it doesn't change what we've got to work on us, and we have to still get better. We beat Berkner, and Berkner's a better team, and that was fun. But you go back and watch the film, and there's still things that we need to clean up. There's things that we've got to get better at if we're going to win a by-district round and an area round and go on into the playoffs. So this is still about us, not as much about Nimitz. We're going to focus on their scheme and the things we do, and we're going to try to eliminate the things they do well, and again, for us, it's still about execution and making big plays and doing those things. So, that's ultimately it. Guys, let's do our job. Let's clock in and get after them like Wildcats are supposed to do.
That's what you're going to do, and it'll be fun, and we'll get to see. You remain relatively healthy, and I think that's been a great thing this season. You'll get a couple players back, and hopefully you can rest a few folks. If you get off to the start we anticipate. By the way, our fine arts report, we had several students, including both of our daughters, who went off and competed in all-region choir, and a lot of our students did extremely well there. It was in Waxahachie. I don't think either one of us were up that morning making that trip, but our daughters were both out in Waxahachie by 8:30 or 9 a.m. Taking part in that. So many ways to get involved, and that was we got some good singers in the family, and that comes from their dads, obviously.
So we've got another one of our players was with Region Choir too, and he was going, and so I was working Saturday. And I was talking to him Friday night. He came up to me and he said, Coach, I'm happy to drive your daughter out to Waxahachie for that choir, which really would help my family out. It's actually Will Chronister, who was one of our unsung heroes.
Yeah,
and he's just a nice kid,
Yeah.
And I had to look at him and say, let me tell you something, buddy. If you're going to drive my daughter from here to Waxahachie through all that traffic, I said, you better be careful. That's precious cargo. And he kind of He said, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir." So anyway, Will Chronister, he took Ellie out there, and apparently it was a great day. Kids did great, as we expected them to.
Yeah.
But it was, I think it was fun times for them. Side note about this, speaking of fine arts, this Friday is junior high night. So the band is going to have the junior high bands perform at halftime, along with the high school band. The high school band is going to do their show, their competition show before the game.
Oh.
Yeah, so they will do about a 15-minute set prior to kickoff. I think they're going to probably take the field about 6:25, 6:30. They'll do 15 minutes and then they're off, and then we'll play the football game. But we've got junior high football players, so Forest Meadow football players and Lake Highlands junior high football players. We're going to put jerseys on those guys and let them run through the tunnel. And anytime we can get these young guys that are passionate and selling out for Lake Highlands, we want to get them out there and be a part of it.
Just suit them out. Y'all could be really intimidating looking with all that many players down there. Well, Coach Jordan, fun to do this, and good luck this coming Friday. And that was a lot of fun the other night, and I think Lake Highlands is headed toward really good things. It is the Lake Highlands Boneyard podcast as we tape just moments before the Cowboys get ready to go on Monday Night Football. We will see you next week, same time, same channel.